Jonathan Harper, a prominent lawyer in Willow Creek, walked purposefully down Oak Street, his footsteps echoing on the cobblestone. Today, however, his thoughts weren't on his latest case, but on Evelyn Carter, a local teacher who had become the center of his world. Evelyn, a black woman, was everything Jonathan admired: strong, wise, and compassionate. The townsfolk, however, saw their relationship as unconventional, and the weight of judgment often followed them. Jonathan paused outside the schoolhouse where Evelyn taught, listening to her patient voice as she guided her students through a history lesson. The bell rang, and Evelyn's students spilled into the yard, laughter and joy filling the air. Evelyn noticed Jonathan, a warm smile spreading across her face. "Jonathan!" she called, approaching him. "What brings you here?" "Couldn't resist seeing you," he replied, taking her hand. They walked together, greeting neighbours, but the whispers of the townsfolk followed them. Evelyn looked down. "Do you think they'll ever accept us?" Jonathan squeezed her hand. "Change is slow, but it's coming. They'll see our love, Evelyn." They decided it was time for Evelyn to meet Jonathan's parents. The Harpers were influential in town, and Jonathan knew this meeting would be a test. When they arrived, Margaret Harper, Jonathan's mother, greeted them at the door with a polite but wary smile. "Jonathan, welcome." She turned to Evelyn, her smile somewhat strained. "And this must be Evelyn." "It's a pleasure to meet you," Evelyn said, extending her hand. Margaret hesitated, then shook Evelyn's hand with a guarded expression. Jonathan's father, Thomas, joined them, nodding silently. Dinner was quiet at first. Evelyn spoke about her love for teaching and her commitment to helping her students. Margaret listened, seemingly torn between skepticism and genuine curiosity, while Thomas remained silent, observing. Jonathan sensed a tentative acceptance, though he knew it would take time for them to truly welcome Evelyn. As they walked home, Jonathan and Evelyn felt hopeful, knowing they had taken a step toward bridging the gap between their world and his family. Yet, they also knew the journey would be challenging, especially in a town where tradition ran deep. Outside of his family, Willow Creek was even less forgiving. Jonathan was currently representing a group of farmers in a land dispute against a powerful family, which had only increased the scrutiny on him and his relationship with Evelyn. Many townsfolk didn't understand why he was standing up for the underprivileged. Meanwhile, Evelyn was working on a proposal to introduce a more inclusive curriculum at the school. Both of them were fighting for change in their own ways, and both were meeting resistance. One afternoon, Sheriff Walter Davies, an old family friend, approached Jonathan. "Jonathan, can we talk?" he asked with a serious tone. They sat down, and Walter sighed. "There's been talk around town, Jonathan. People aren't happy about the case, or your relationship with Evelyn." Jonathan's jaw tightened. "I appreciate the warning, Walter, but we're not going to back down." Walter nodded, respect in his eyes. "Just be careful. People can do foolish things when they're scared of change." Later that week, Evelyn encountered a group of women from town who seemed curious but judgmental. "Evelyn," one of them began, "we've heard quite a bit about you and Jonathan. It's certainly different." Evelyn met their gazes steadily. "Different doesn't mean wrong. It means growth." As the days passed, tension continued to rise in Willow Creek. Jonathan's case gained attention, and Evelyn's proposal stirred up strong opinions. But there were also signs of hope. Martha Lewis, a respected businesswoman, publicly voiced her support for them, urging the town to open its mind to new possibilities. Martha's influence led others to reconsider their views, and Jonathan and Evelyn felt a renewed sense of hope, though the resistance remained. The town's harvest festival was coming up, and Jonathan and Evelyn decided to attend, hoping their presence might help bridge the divide. As they danced under the stars, they felt eyes on them, both approving and disapproving. Jonathan pulled Evelyn close. "We'll show them, Evelyn. Love can overcome even the deepest fears." But later that night, the underlying tension seemed clearer than ever. Sheriff Walter visited Jonathan again, warning him of vandalism and anonymous threats against the farmers he represented. Jonathan felt the pressure, but remained committed to his principles. That evening, he and Evelyn met with the farmers, promising to stand by them despite the risks. With the trial approaching, Martha held a town meeting where she spoke openly about unity and acceptance. "We cannot let fear dictate our actions," she declared. "It's time for Willow Creek to embrace change." Her words resonated, and many townsfolk began to show signs of understanding. The day of the trial's conclusion arrived, and the courtroom was filled with anticipation. Jonathan's closing argument was a heartfelt call for fairness, urging the jury to consider the importance of justice. After deliberation, the jury ruled in favor of the farmers, and the courtroom erupted in applause. Outside, supporters congratulated Jonathan and Evelyn, including Margaret and Thomas Harper, who expressed genuine warmth and acceptance toward Evelyn for the first time. In the weeks that followed, conversations about acceptance and unity spread through Willow Creek. Evelyn's proposal gained support, and those who had once opposed them began to question their own biases. Jonathan and Evelyn's love had become a symbol of resilience, inspiring others to reach across divides. Months later, Jonathan and Evelyn stood together at a town hall meeting, sharing their vision for a united Willow Creek. Residents listened, their expressions hopeful, as Jonathan and Evelyn spoke of the power of understanding and growth. That evening, as they walked hand in hand through the town, they knew that the journey they'd faced together had been worth every challenge, not only for themselves but for the community they had helped to change.